We're ready to start. This webinar is being put on by SCORE, sponsored by Truist, who is one of our sponsors here at the SCORE organization. The SCORE organization is a nonprofit organization. We need to mute something over there. That is a resource partner of the SBA. So we're 100% volunteer organization, with our focus being on mentoring new business owners and people who have ideas for new businesses. And then we put on educational workshops, such as the one today. Basically, if you'd like more information on SCORE and you're not familiar with it, we have a website at piedmont.score.org. And you can take a look at that. There's other seminars and webinars that are being put on. There's a schedule there, so you'll be able to look at things there as well. So today, Larry Block is our presenter. He's a subject matter expert here at the SCORE organization in Greenville. As a graduate of Kent State University, we won't mention how long ago that was. And he spent the early part of his career as an infantryman in the Army, and came back from the Army, worked as a social worker in New York City, an adult parole officer in Cleveland, Ohio. And after that, he got into some larger corporations, working for Simon & Schuster, Bell & Howell, and the Xerox Publishing Group, where he was the Vice President of International Sales Marketing. After that, he joined his wife, and they started a company in advertising, marketing, and public relations by the name of Block & Block Incorporated. And today he's going to be making a presentation on presentation skills. So I think we're ready to get started. And if you do have any questions, please just type them into the chat box, and we'll interrupt Larry and try and get them in at an appropriate time so that questions can be answered. We're going to try and finish up I believe by 12:45. So we'll hopefully be done with the actual presentation a few minutes early, and we can collect any questions at the end as well. So Larry, if you'd like to take it away.
Good. Okay. I don't know if you guys can see me, but if you can't, just picture a slightly older version of Brad Pitt. I probably made hundreds of presentations over my lifetime. When I was in the United States, primarily I did it with law librarians and law school librarians and law and university librarians. And when I was running the international operation for Xerox Publishing, I made presentations to people who would probably be the equivalent of our US Secretary of Education and our Librarian of Congress. So I've had an opportunity to do a lot of presentations. And then when I was with Block & Block, which my wife started, and in fact, I worked for her, I created presentations for our clients, and I coached clients on doing presentations. So you might think that I am a natural, and the truth of the matter is I'm not. And I hope to do a worthy presentation for you guys today. When I was about 19 years old, I was a sophomore studying psychology at the fabulous Kent State University, immortalized by Crosby, Stills, and Nash in the song Ohio, because the National Guard, that's the school where the National Guard opened fire on some peaceful protesters during the Vietnam War, killing a bunch of them. Anyway, I was studying psychology, and I was in a class which today would be called a class about psychology of the intellectually challenged. In those days, it was called psychology of the retarded. And Kent State had been a normal school, which is a school where they taught teachers in the first place. So Kent had its own public school system sort of within the university, and kids from the local area could go to school K through 12. Well, they had a class for, quotes, retarded children. And my professor found out that I was putting myself through college by playing drums in a jazz group 3 or 4 nights a week in a bar in Cleveland. And she asked if I would put together some sort of a rhythm program for the children in this class. And I did, and we worked together with them. And eventually we put a whole little show together, and their parents came and saw it, and the kids enjoyed it. The parents loved it, and it was great. So the teacher then asked me, the professor then asked me if I would present the program to her grad students, people who were getting PhDs in psychology, were on the verge of becoming clinical psychologists. And I said, sure. And so I put a presentation together and I showed up and I walked into the classroom and I saw these very serious people, quite a bit older than me. And I froze. I lost my voice. I started shaking and I was sweating, and she grabbed me by the arm and yanked me out of the room. And she said to me, look, I said, I can't do it. I can't do it. These people are pros. They're about to become clinical psychologists. I'm just a sophomore. I don't know anything. And she said to me, calm down. You did a great program. Do you agree that you did a great program with the children? I said, yeah. And she said, do you feel that you know the subject? And I said, sure. And she said, do you think maybe what you have to tell these people is something that even though they're getting PhDs, they don't know? I said, yeah, I guess so. She said, then you can go in there and you know the subject better than they do. And you can go in there and you can make a great presentation. She took me by the arm and she walked me back into the class and she introduced me in a very nice way. And I did the presentation and it came off and they loved it and I felt good. And that was pretty much the last time I ever had trouble doing a presentation. And the moral of the story is, if you really know your stuff, you believe in your subject, and you've taken the time, and we'll talk about that throughout this meeting, you will be able to comfortably do a good presentation. And my goal really for this meeting is to help you to be able to do this, because I know a lot of people really get scared and freeze up and get worried when they have to do a presentation. A little bit of that worry will probably put a little edge on your presentation, but you shouldn't really can't not sleep the night before or be really worried about doing a presentation. So what we're going to cover today is what you're planning to present, selecting the key elements for your presentation, creating an outline of what you'll be presenting, and working on your stand-up skills, which we'll really concentrate on. We'll look at visual presentation software options, which we'll hit pretty lightly, because I think most of you probably would be as good at it already as I am. And then we'll talk about combining content, visual elements, and stand-up skills for your perfect presentation. Okay, I am now not able to advance. So Mike, if you'll come in and help me, I'm not able to advance to the next slide.
Why is it not working?
I'm pushing the up and down buttons, but it isn't working.
Okay. Oh, is that the next slide?
This is the first. This is, oh yeah, wait, that is it. The agenda. Okay.
Where are you at?
Oh, I want to go to the agenda. We did have it.
Okay, go up.
Go up. Wait, am I going too far? Oh, agenda. Okay, so to click to the next one, I go up. Yep.
Click should be down. That should be the next one, right?
Okay, I need the agenda. So go down. Okay,
Down.
thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, just quickly, we're going to spend time. We already talked a little bit about the introduction, and we're going to then select the key elements of your presentation and work on discarding peripheral distractors, because people do that all the time and they lose in the presentation because they're presenting a bunch of stuff that doesn't matter. We're going to talk about outlining your presentation script and writing a script outline, and then we're going to talk about the various elements of doing the stand-up: presentation, opening, meet and greet, what to wear, posture and use of the podium, using audience appropriate language, and using confidence building portraiture of success. Next, we're going to review visual software, PowerPoint and other ones, tips about using visual presentations, selecting tight content, using graphics, laying out text and graphics to excite your audience, and putting your final presentation together, and then I'll wrap up the workshop. So let's start with presenting the key elements, selecting the key elements of your presentation. You have to start by thinking through, what is it that I want to present and what is my goal? You'd be surprised how many people don't take the time to think about what they really want to present and what their goal is for the end of the presentation. It might be a sales presentation, which I also do for SCORE. I do sales presentation training. But it might be something totally different. It could be many, many things that you're presenting. But the first thing you have to think about is, what is the goal? What am I trying to accomplish at the end of the presentation? And if you start there, you're already part of the way down the road. And the old keep it simple, stupid thing is something to remember. You need to keep your content very straightforward and don't have too many extraneous details. You see, I said remove extraneous information, focus on what matters. So what you want to do is you want to think also about the visual part of your presentation from the very start. If you're trying to present something that becomes so complicated visually that you're not going to be able to put that into the presentation, then you're wasting your time. So you also need to think at the same time about the visual presentation of the material you want to do. I have always tried to find out, if possible, who I'm going to be presenting to. Who can you invite to your presentation? Now, I recognize that isn't always the way it's going to work. Usually I try to find someone within an organization who will host me into that organization when I'm going to do a presentation. And I ask them some questions so we figure out who to have invited to the presentation and how did they get selection? How did they get selected? Sometimes it's up to you to select them on your own, which is good usually. If you have someone on the inside who's willing to help you, you want their help in a number of ways. You want to know about the responsibility levels, and you want, of course, you want to reach the top people that you can. That doesn't always happen. Sometimes you're trying to develop people who will help you on another level, but you want to know how many responsibility levels are going to be involved, and you want to know how you can target key parts of the audience. When you find out who's going to be there, especially if you can get an inside person, a person who you've maybe pitched or seen first, or somehow have created some sort of a relationship with, you want to ask them about who's going to be there. I've been in situations where they've told me there's going to be a person in the room who is going to speak up a lot, but I want you to know nobody here pays any attention to what that person says. So don't let that person draw you in to focusing on them in the presentation. If you do that, you're going to lose for sure. You want to focus on this person and that person. While you give everybody respect, you want to make sure that this person or that person or these people are the ones you're paying attention to. And if this particular person that was mentioned is in there, they may do a lot of talking, but don't let them take control of the presentation. Okay. So next, we're going to talk about outlining. You want to visualize the pages that are going to be in your presentation. And visualization is important all the time anyway. I try to get people to visualize things when I make a presentation to them. And you need to lay out a preliminary outline of what each page will contain and try to create a rough draft. Now, for me, this is hard to do. I happen to be ADS. I have a very short attention span, always have. It didn't help me in school, I can assure you. And I find it hard for me to make myself concentrate on laying out a preliminary outline. But the bottom line is, if you really can do this and you can create a rough draft to guide you through the presentation, that's the hardest part. I find that to be the hardest part. If I've laid out a rough draft, filling in the lines for me is easy as pie. So take the time to create an outline, a preliminary outline of what each page is going to contain. And once you've done that, then you can start fleshing out the presentation. You want to put in the detail you want to present on each page, and remember to keep visualization for the audience in mind. Things will really fall into place if you do that preliminary thing. One of the things I did in my career was write and direct TV commercials and things as long as 7 minutes, and sometimes one as long as 93 minutes, and laying out what I called a shot list, which is basically a preliminary layout of the whole thing, was incredibly painful. But once I found I could do it, then the rest of it would fall into place. So I can't say enough to be sure that you start by outlining what you want to do and then fill in the blanks, so to speak. Okay. You want to visualize each of the sections and make sure that you're keeping that in mind as you get to fleshing out the actual presentation. Okay, let's talk about stand-up skills. I would like to present there's one more story, and that's my last story that I'm going to tell you. Sharing stand-up presentations, nightmares and successes. When I was 28 years old, I was a product development manager for a division of Bell & Howell. And the chairman of Bell & Howell, a guy named Peter G. Peterson, who people called Pete Peterson, who went on to be the US Secretary of Commerce and the chair of Lehman Brothers, held a meeting in Chicago. My division was not in Chicago, though most of them were. By the way, Bell & Howell at one time was not the company that you see named with night vision goggles and atomic flashlights. Bell & Howell at one time was a wonderful corporation. It eventually got bought by some investors who broke it up and sold off the divisions and just kept the name for licensing. Anyway, we were called to Chicago to make a presentation to Peter Peterson. And we were supposed to go on at 11, but the morning went very badly, and we actually didn't get on till 3 in the afternoon. And the room was filled only with men dressed in fancy suits, who were some of them probably earning 10 times as much as I was. I was the youngest guy there. Occasionally secretaries who probably earned more than me came flying in and out, bringing stuff to their bosses. There was a buzz going on at all times in the room, except when Peterson spoke, and then people got quiet, and he would listen to presentations and sometimes say nothing, or sometimes just tear into the people. Anyway, by the time 3 o'clock came around, I was there with an older guy. And he got up and he tried to make a little joke. And he said, I've been with the company for 20 years. I guess that's why they're having me present old business. I was presenting a new project that we wanted to do. He spoke for about 15 minutes, and Peter Peterson didn't even look up. Didn't say a word to him, didn't even look up from whatever he was looking at. And the buzz was going on in the room. And I started to get nervous because I was going to present a somewhat controversial project, which was the underground press. And that was microfilming newspapers from the movement that was anti-Vietnam and a whole bunch of other things. The newspapers I wanted to include in this collection, which we would then sell to colleges and universities, included things like the Berkeley Bar from California and East Village Other from New York and the Burning River Oracle from Cleveland, and women's newspapers like Ain't I a Woman and Off Our Backs. And I knew that nobody going up the line would approve this project because they thought it was controversial, even though they knew it would sell to colleges and universities because it was primary research material. I was thinking, you know what? He didn't even respond to the guy who went before me, but I'll be damned if he isn't going to respond to me. I left my notes intentionally sitting on the table. I walked up there and I started into my project, and I said a little bit about it. And suddenly Peter Peterson looked up and held up one finger. The room went dead silent. And he said, "Who are you?" And I said, "I'm Larry Block." And I took a breath. And then I heard a voice, which I later recognized as mine, say, "I've also been with the company 20 years. I started when I was 8 years old." Well, for another second, the room was dead silent. I saw the British guy who was the president of the group that my division was in turn very pale. And then Peter Peterson laughed, and the whole room, of course, laughed. And then he said, "Tell me about your project." I did. He said to me, "Can you get the American Library Association to endorse it?" I said, "Absolutely." He said, "Get it, and it's approved." Afterwards, he came up to me, shook hands with me, and asked me to be on a panel of 12 people he was putting together to plan the future of the company. And within 2 years, I was the vice president of Bell & Howell. Moral of the story, if you know what you're going to talk about and you feel comfortable with it and confident in it, you can get through adversity. Anyway, that was something that really I've never forgotten, obviously. And it worked. Sometimes a little bit of levity. In this case, it worked. Sometimes, by the way, it doesn't, but it did, and it broke things up, and it really ended up working out well for me. Okay, opening your presentation. If you can control the whole situation, that would be the best. I like the meet and greet where you walk around, shake hands with people, talk to them, make sure you meet the people you were told that are going to be key, but at the same time, do not greet other people and treat other people with respect. I truly believe in treating everybody with respect. Again, we talked about who to invite, and that was critical. And hope that the people that you were hoping to invite were there. What to wear, and in these times, that's an interesting thing. Most of my career, especially in the corporate world, you just wore a suit and a tie, period. And women wore suits. Everybody wore suits. That, of course, has changed, and people dress in Friday casual and all that kind of stuff. What I always say is try to wear what is appropriate for the other people that are in the room. If the people are all dressed casually and you come in a formal suit and stuff like that, you're going to be a bit out of place. If, on the other hand, people wear suits and you come in blue jeans and a golf shirt, that isn't going to work very well either. So try to find out what people will normally wear to those kinds of occasions, and be sure that you are wearing something that fits appropriately with them, that won't make you uncomfortable and won't make them uncomfortable. I like the use of the podium. I like to lean on it, and I like to make sure that I make the best use of it without laying on it. And also posture is important. Be sure that you're standing up straight and making the right kind of a look for yourself throughout your presentation. Obviously, we talked about knowing your subject, and that's critical. And I like to add to that, believe in your subject. Really know and believe in your subject. Now, the next one is really critical, tailoring your language and details to your audience. If you're making a presentation to a group of engineers or finance people, there probably isn't more detail than you can possibly feed them, because they live for that stuff. But if you're talking to marketing people or people who have a bigger oversight over management or things like that, and you start getting into massive detail, it isn't going to work. It really is not going to work. So you need to be sure you understand, again, going back to who your audience is, to make sure you tailor the level of information that you're feeding that audience to the level of interest to the people that are there. Otherwise, you'll lose them, and that won't work for you at all. On the other hand, if you have the real detail-oriented folks and you gloss over stuff, that isn't going to work either. Okay, practice it in your own way. Some people like to do it with a colleague. They like to do it with a spouse. They like to do it with a parent. They like to do it with somebody they know. They may even like to do it with a client who's already a good client of theirs, who's willing to allow them to do it, to critique what they do. There are also people who don't like to practice it at all. My wife has done a fair bit of acting, and I say to her, do you want to run lines with me? And she won't do it, because that is not the way that she prepares herself for an acting situation. So each person has a different way of doing it. The last one here is what I call creating a portraiture of success for yourself. And I need to tell you that I met my wife in a training session at Xerox. And many years later, she said to me the thing she liked most about the training was talking about portraiture of success. Now, you may remember the movie, All That Jazz. It's a while back. It starred Roy Scheider, the guy who you might remember as the star of Jaws. But he plays in that the real life dancer, choreographer, director, Bob Fosse. And Bob Fosse was a drunk, he was a drug addict, and he always burned the candle at both ends. And at some point in the movie, he's getting ready to go on stage. He's sick, he's drunk, he's stoned, and he looks at himself in the mirror and he says, "It's showtime." Well, that's the opposite of what I recommend. Not getting yourself ready to do a presentation and counting on it being showtime is not the way you want to go. If you create a portraiture of success, you will visualize in advance how the presentation is going to go. I'm going to dress properly and I'm going to arrive on time. I'm going to hook up with the person that is my host. We're going to have a meet and greet. I'm going to bring goodies for the group, and I'm going to have them laid out, and they're going to be just right. And the people are going to come in, and I'm going to greet each of them. And there's a certain guy or two, or a woman or two that I know I'm supposed to focus some of my attention on. I'm going to make sure I meet them and spend a little bit of special time with them. We're going to get started and we're going to get going on time. I'm going to have my visuals all set up and ready to go. I'm going to test my projector if you're doing something with a projector, and have everything ready to go. And then I'm going to get up and I'm going to work through my presentation. I'm going to pay attention to my audience. I'm going to hit the high points. I'm going to keep things simple. I'm going to leave time at the end for people to ask questions. And I'm going to be able to answer those questions, and the day is going to come off perfectly. That's portraiture of success. That's creating a portrait of success for yourself. And honestly, it really, really, really does work. There's another side of portraiture of success. The presentation is over and you're in your car driving to the next place or back to your office or home or whatever, and you do portraiture of success in reverse. What did I do today that worked? What did I do today that didn't work? Did I get there on time? Did I meet and greet the right people? Did I present the stuff in a skillful way? Did I make sure to have my visuals set up and ready to go? Had I practiced and made sure I was comfortable with the content? And was I able to end the meeting if there was a goal, some sort of a sales goal or something like that? Did I reach that goal at the end? So that's portraiture of success, and it's important. It's important that you think about that. That will really help you. It'll help you as you go into the presentation itself. It'll help you get ready to actually make the presentation. So now let's talk a little bit about the software part of things, and I'm not going to dwell too much on it. I think still the most popular is PowerPoint. If you don't have PowerPoint, you might have OpenOffice. OpenOffice is the product of Oracle, and it really mimics PowerPoint, and it's free. So sometimes when you're getting a computer, you don't get the Office suite, and so you may want to get OpenOffice, which has a mimic of each thing that's in Office and Microsoft Office, and that works just pretty much like PowerPoint. Getting much more popular today is Google Slides, and I think a lot of people are beginning to use that, and they're probably segueing away from PowerPoint. A couple of others that I think are both either inexpensive or free are Keynote and Zoho Show. I'll just take a moment for those of you who want to use PowerPoint to give you a quick way to do it. I usually create my documents in Word, and that includes putting in graphics and stuff like that. This presentation we're looking at was done in PowerPoint. I created the documents in Word. You have to number those documents and then turn them into PDFs. And once you've done that, you can load the PDFs comfortably and easily, insert them into PowerPoint, and because they're numbered, they will automatically come up in PowerPoint as a slideshow in order, which is exactly what this presentation we're doing today is. Okay. You want to be able to create visuals that work, and that is also very important. I hope to think that the visuals on this page will give you a kind of an idea. One guy's blabbing too much, blah, blah, blah. Another guy's standing there with his arms out. The audience is enjoying him, or the audience is going to sleep. So those are a good example. And I think on every single page, we have some graphic that we selected. So you want to plan, number one, you want to plan tight, relevant content just right for each page. The one page in this presentation, which really was over full, was the agenda, but I knew we weren't going to spend much time on it, and I didn't want to do it on 2 pages. But in some cases, it's necessary for you to use more than one page to present a piece of your idea. That's okay. It's better than cramping a lot of the stuff together on a page and then making it hard to read. You want to create simple, easy to read words and phrases, which I hope I've done in this particular presentation. And I like to use a highly readable font. My favorite font happens to be Arial. There are definitely other ones that are easy to read, but I've seen presentations that are done in fonts that are truly not easy to read, and it's just a waste of everybody's time. So make sure that you've got a nice, easy to read font, and that it's the right size, and there aren't too many words on that page. You want to use spacing to present the content, again, in a visually pleasing way. And I think, I hope that I've done this when I put this particular presentation together. This page is probably one of the tightest ones, and I think it's pretty easy to read. And then you want to select and insert appropriate eye-catching graphics. I hope this page is a really good example of that. Boy, we've gone incredibly quickly. I guess I'm more used to doing this when people are coming in with questions and stuff like that. We're actually way ahead of ourselves, to put it mildly. We're at the wrap up. Maybe we'll have a bunch of questions, and that'll be great. Okay, we want to remember for sure to know our subject and to know it well. And when I say know your subject, I also mean have faith in it, believe in it, that sort of thing. Be kind of zealous even about it, and that'll help you through the tighter moments, or when people begin to not want to pay attention, or when people challenge you. Know your audience. Again, we go back to the idea of, if you can, it isn't always the case, if you can, try to find out who's going to be at that presentation, and play as serious a role as you can in getting the people that you want to have there. Keep it simple and short. I guess I've really done that today. Use attractive graphics. Practice your presentation any way that really works for you, and use portraiture of success. That's honestly, I don't know how we got here. It usually ends minutes before an hour and 15 minutes. So I hope you have questions.
Say, Larry, right now we have no questions in the Q&A stuff or the chat screen.
Wow. Did people show up?
Oh, yes, we have 12, 13 people there, I believe.
Okay. Wow. I've done this presentation before, and it's taken an hour and 15 minutes. I'm not sure why it moved through. Why we moved through. I guess in a lot of cases, people will ask stuff at the end of each of the slides.
I have 13 people.
Well, are you done then?
I'm done.
Oh, okay. Well, if there are any questions, quick type them into the chat window, and I'll get them passed to Larry real quick, and then we can end the session.
Yeah, if you read them, if you get one, just read it.
Yeah, we have people typing. Just a minute.
Good. Okay, great. Good.
Okay, here it is. What are your thoughts on using a laser pointer?
Oh, good. That's a great one. I like it. I like it as long as it doesn't dominate. As long as it doesn't dominate the talk to the degree to which where people are sort of following the thing like they're following something that's a laser that you're about to use to target somebody to shoot them. But yeah, I think it's good. I think using a laser pointer is good.
We have another one that says, I have a presentation today and I'm very nervous. Is there a way I can look at the slide without being so obvious?
That's a good question. It may interest you to know that in addition to the slides today, I had a copy of each slide on paper with notes on it that I was glancing at as I was talking. I don't think it's such a bad thing to be able to look at it. It's sort of like going back to the laser pointer. It kind of steps people through what you're presenting. Maybe the person would tell us what they're presenting and to what kind of a group.
Okay, well, in the meantime, what about providing a copy of the slides to your audience before the meeting?
Not before. Do not present them before, or they will be reading them ahead. They'll be flipping ahead and stuff like that. Presenting them afterwards, absolutely. In fact, this group, everybody who signed up for this workshop will get a copy of the slides later today. I assume it'll be after the fact. Do not give people anything to read in advance. Don't give them your brochures, your flyers, anything like that. If you want to give them your business card, okay, I'll tell you, I've been in meetings where people keep staring at the business card. So do not give them anything in advance.
Okay, and what about converting them to a PDF? You typically suggest convert them to a PDF so they cannot edit the slides once they get them?
That is absolutely and positively correct. Yeah, do not give them something they can edit, because the next thing you know, you'll see it somewhere with their edits. No, absolutely do not. The only thing I give when I do my sales workshop, I give out forms, and they are not only in Word, they are in Word template form, so that people can use them over and over again to write and improve their sales pitch. But other than for that, I also give them my slides for that presentation, again, after the fact. And they're always in PDF form.
Okay, do you have any tips on calming your nerves?
One of them would be portraiture of success, because it makes you think. Another version of portraiture of success is thinking about a presentation you made that is successful. Boy, I'm glad they asked that. Is thinking about a presentation that you've made that was successful, and thinking about, when I go in here, I'm going to do what I did at such and such a place. I'm going to be there on time. I'm going to have I'm going to do the meet and greet, and I'm going to have my visuals ready to go, and I'm going to work through my thing, and I'm going to know my audience and everything like that, just like I did when I did the presentation a week ago. You know, the opposite side of this is people who get themselves, who are superstitious about presentations or anything like that. If you ever go to Hong Kong, you'll find that if you're the first person in a shop, they will do anything and everything to make a sale to you, because they believe that if they don't make a sale to the first person in the shop, they have bad luck and they won't do well for the whole rest of the day. So they will flip over backward to keep you from leaving the shop without buying something. So, and that for them is their own portraiture of success. So number one, don't be superstitious. And if things do go badly one place and you have to go on to do a presentation somewhere else, don't let that affect you. Visualize when you've done a good presentation. But again, I believe in visualization. You can do, I think you should breathe and think about it. I'm a drummer, as I said earlier. I still occasionally play. I've gone on stage in front of a lot of people with somebody that I never played with before, that they brought me in at the last minute, and I'll get a bit nervous, but I'll breathe and kind of stretch and walk around a little bit before I have to get ready for the curtain to go and up and the lights to go on. And that's kind of the way I like breathing. A lot of people these days are breathing, just breathing, but visualize it going well. That would be the best thing I could suggest.
Okay. Do you take attendance at your presentations, and if so, why?
That's an interesting one. I guess I personally have never taken attendance, so usually there's somebody else maybe there. I want the list of people that have been there and their names and possibly email addresses, so I can send them a follow-up kind of thing. I know that when we do them, when SCORE does presentations, whether they're live or virtual, we get information from the people. Obviously, if you signed up, we have your information, and we'll be able to send you the slides. We might send you, in the future, we might send you a promotion for my sales training program, or any other number of things, or just a promotion about joining SCORE, either as a mentor or as a client. So yeah, it's good to do that. I wouldn't make a big deal of it. You might have a sign-in sheet or something like that. Some people won't want to sign in because they don't want you to bother them. So I guess I have mixed feelings about it. But, if you intend to follow up individually